Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of the Monday Morning Recap here with JR. So another Sunday is in the books. Well, will be in the books soon. Got the Sunday Nighter going on right now, but we don't really care about it. Other than it is the Tampa Bay Gophers, because they have a bunch of Gophers on their team. But let's talk about the two games that we all really care about. We'll start off with the Minnesota Vikings. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Skull Vikings. They take on the Detroit Lions today, and didn't know what to expect coming into this game. Last week was quite the surprise, but you never know what you're going to get with this team. Well, today, what we got was the Dalvin Cook show. And the Vikings taking care of business today, 34-20. Probably shouldn't have even been that close. It was pretty much complete and utter domination by the Vikings and Dalvin Cook, coming away with a 14-point victory. And for the most part, a pretty solid game, both offensively, defensively. Special teams definitely went the way of the Detroit Lions as they got 2 blocked punts today. Don't know what's up with that, but really they only got 7 points off of those 2 blocked punts. But we'll talk about that here in a moment. Running down some of the numbers again, the Vikings 34, Detroit Lions 20. Kirk Cousins, another solid game manager type day. 13 of 20 for 220 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. That's a number again, 0 interceptions. If Kirk Cousins does not turn the ball over, we're more than likely going to win the game, or it's going to be a real close game. But three tutties, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I'll take that every day and twice on Sunday. Dalvin Cook, like we said, it was the Dalvin Cook show. He cemented himself, in my opinion. Now, I'm a bit of a homer, but he is the best running back in the league. Alvin Kamara does not do what Dalvin Cook does. Christian McCaffrey can do what Dalvin Cook does, but I just think Dalvin Cook is on another level at this point. And the Vikings have been very, very blessed with running backs over the years. I mean, you go all the way back to Chuck Foreman, Robert Smith, Adrian Peterson, obviously. I'm repping the AP jersey today, even though he was on the opposite sideline. We'll talk about that here in a bit. But, the last 2 games, last week he went for 160 plus on the ground, I think 163. This week, 22 carries for 206 yards. 206. No, that's on the ground. That's just running the ball. And 2 touchdowns. So the last 2 games, he has completely and utterly put this team on his back and has brought them back into the conversation of, could they sneak into the playoffs? More on that in a moment. But let's keep running down these stats. Cook also had 2 receptions for 46 yards. That's 250 total scrimmage yards today. Justin Jefferson, a nice little game. 3 receptions for 64 yards. Honestly, that's all he really needed to do. The pass game was not the focal point of the offense, which it never is with Mike Zimmer. My thoughts on that. But a couple of deep throws down the field today from Cousins to Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. Cousins did miss Thielen on one play because he threw more of a rope instead of a teardrop, but it is what it is. But 3 for 64 for Justin Jefferson. And we're going to throw in a little tidbit for Irv Smith Jr. Only had 2 receptions for 10 yards today. However, those 2 receptions both went for touchdowns, came into the game with 0 touchdowns on the season, and left the game with 2 touchdowns on the season. So the Vikings on offense, everything worked through work through Cook. Even when Alexander Madison was in there, he finally decided he was going to start running the ball better now. Um, really just a real solid game overall from the offense. Um, you hand the ball to Dalvin Cook and he does what he does, you're going to have a lot of success. On the other side of the ball, the Detroit Lions, which have become the new, kind of like what Minnesota used to do, take all of the divisional players when they were up in their golden years and bring them in. They got Everson Griffin, they got Adrian Peterson, two pillars of respectively the offense and defense of the Vikings for better part of the last decade. But Matt Stafford, 23 of 32 for 211 yards, one touchdown, and two interceptions. Now, those two interceptions were huge. Now, the Vikings won by 14. That's two touchdowns. Well, both of his interceptions came in the red zone, one by Eric Wilson and the other by Eric Kendricks in the end zone. Wilson's was at like the 10 or 15, something like that. But terrible throws by Stafford. Now, he missed all week because he was on the COVID list because he was in close contact with somebody or something. And he actually, beginning of the fourth, got hit, and you could see it right away, the way he got up and just looking in his eyes, there wasn't something right. So Cleat, the head linesman or the head official today, Cleat Johnson or whatever his last name is, pulled him out of the game. He went in the concussion protocol and did not return. So Chase Daniel came back out, actually threw a touchdown to TJ Hawkinson, which won me $5 on DraftKings. Pretty psyched about that. But Stafford, 23 of 32 for 211, one touchdown and two interceptions. Swift for the Lions was the leading carrier or the leading rusher, 13 carries for 64 yards. He looks like he's going to be a pretty decent back, but the Lions are so pass reliant and pass heavy that it's hard for any running back to do anything. Adrian Peterson looked pretty good today. Had the quick feet, was making those moves like he did, when he was wearing the purple. But ultimately he was limited to, I think, under 30 yards, which is always nice to do against arguably the best running back to ever play the game. And leading the Detroit Lions in receiving, Danny Amendola, 7 receptions for 77 yards, the triple sevens for him. But like I said, TJ Hawkinson had their lone touchdown reception today. And just to reiterate again, the Lions had 2 blocked punts today. They had one last week, and the last time they had a blocked punt was 2007. So they went 13 years between blocked punts, and then they went one game and then like 6 minutes. So is it a trend? Who knows? I don't know what was going on with that line on special teams for the Vikings, but hopefully they can get that cleaned up and we don't have to worry about it. But like I said, Dalvin Cook is the focal point of this offense. He is the workhorse. He is the stud. And if we can keep feeding Dalvin and keep that stud going, the Vikings, even though 2-3 weeks ago I was pretty much done with them and was in full tank for Trevor mode, the stranger things have happened. Look at Seattle about maybe 10, 12 years ago. They went 7-9, made the playoffs, and then shocked the New Orleans Saints, which the New Orleans Saints have really gotten their hearts broke a few times in the playoffs, which couldn't happen to a nicer team. I hate the Saints almost as much as I dislike the Packers. Actually, I might hate the Saints even more. I'm becoming soft in my older age. As you can see in my beard, there's lots of grays starting to form. But the Vikings, here's the biggest thing that the Vikings have figured out. And they've been trying to do it for the past couple of years. But the Vikings' offensive line is not built to be that smash it up the middle, 3-4 yards a run. They have some young, athletic offensive linemen that block in a zone run scheme fantastically. Now, if you look at when this season, if the Vikings somehow manage to go like 8-8, 9-7, something like that, I'm not saying they're going to do it, but it is possible. If they somehow manage to get into the playoffs. Now, keep in mind, there is an additional 2 playoff teams from each conference this year. They've expanded the playoffs. Now the first 2 teams, I think, so the 1 and 2 seeds are going to get that bye, and there's going to be 4 wild cards. So as of this moment, the Vikings are a game and a half back of Chicago because Chicago has not had their bye week yet. But as of this moment, they're a game and a half back. Stranger things have happened. Now, if the Vikings somehow manage to make it to the playoffs, this is the point that they turned it around. As soon as Dakota Dozier got injured. No, Drew Samaya. It was Drew Samaya was starting at right guard up until the Seattle game. I think he got hurt in the Seattle game. They inserted somebody that they drafted as a left tackle out of Boise State, I believe, Ezra Cleveland. He made his first start against Atlanta, I believe. But they put Ezra Cleveland at right guard. So now it's Riley Reef at left tackle, Garrett Bradbury at center. What the hell is his name? He used to be center. I can't remember his name now. He must be doing great because I'm not hearing his name too much. But Pat Elflein, went over to left guard, and Brian O'Neill, the stud Brian O'Neill, who should be an all-pro, and Ezra Cleveland on that offensive line. Now, Riley Reef is a little bit longer in the tooth than the other guys, but the other 4, other than Riley Reef, you have Pat Elflein, who's been in the league 3 years. You have Garrett Bradbury, who's in his 2nd year. Ezra Cleveland is a rookie, and Brian O'Neill is in his 2nd year. Now, why is that important? These young guys are so athletic. They can get out on the perimeter, they can pull, and they can get out in that zone run blocking scheme. That has been the turning point of this year for the Vikings. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go 11-5. I'm not even saying they're going to win another game the rest of this season. However, they're at a point now where they've found something. They figured it out. They're not just up the middle. It's sweeping out to the right. It's sweeping out to the left. You look at that Dalvin Cook at a 70-yard touchdown scamper today. Go back and look at that play. 30 yards down the field, Ezra Cleveland makes the key block on the last guy that can get to Dalvin. 30 yards down the field. This is a 200, almost 300-pound lineman running with Dalvin Cook for 30 yards to make that block. If the Vikings can somehow manage it, that is the biggest factor in this season, is getting Drew Samaya out, who might as well have not even been there, and getting Ezra Cleveland in there. I was calling for it all along. I don't like Drew Samaya. I'm sure he'd be a great guy to come in and spell somebody for a couple of snaps or something. But with those 5 guys on that offensive line, also Irv Smith has turned into a great run and pass blocker. Irv Smith Jr. is doing things this year that there's no way he was going to do them last year. He just wasn't there. He was a glorified wide receiver on the end of the line who they weren't going to do anything like run blocking wise with him. Kyle Rudolph, you know what you get with Kyle Rudolph. He's going to make the catches. He's going to run block for you. So when you can get those two on the outsides as well, they're big and athletic. I'm telling you what, folks, they got something. They got something there on offense. Now the defense is another story. They've been just absolutely decimated by injuries. And if you think about where this defense is at this point, and to me, I thought they played pretty well today. They gave up 20 points, but they got 3 interceptions. Like I said, one by Wilson, one by Kendricks, and one by Harry the Hitman, Harrison Smith. But if you look at their cornerbacks, there's no way any quarterback should not be throwing for 400 plus yards against these guys. They got 2 rookies. They got 2 rookies. They got one guy they signed off of Denver's practice squad, or maybe Oakland's practice squad, somebody's practice squad that started today. Mike Hughes, who was supposed to step in to be, the new Xavier Rhodes or the new Trey Waynes, whatever you want to call him, he's been a non-factor all year. But I mean, you got Harrison Hand, another rookie, Jeff Gladney, Cam Dantzler, guys, I don't even know who they are at this point. And then, of course, you got Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris in the back, who aren't doing much in the way of blitzing and things because they got to play a two deep safety because of the inexperience at cornerback. But the longer this season goes, the more reps that these rookies get, the better they are going to be this year and long term. The kind of experience that they are getting this year, most rookies don't get because they're not forced into action. They're learning by fire. They're just getting tossed in. And that's the best way. Experience is the best teacher. So the mistakes that you saw the first 2-3 weeks, you're not seeing quite as much of it. Now they're getting burned on a few plays, on blown coverages. It's going to happen. That's why I never picked the Vikings defense in a fantasy league, at least this year. But the cornerbacks are doing well. The linebackers, for not having Anthony Barr, they're playing well. And that defensive line, let me tell you something, that defensive line has impressed the hell out of me the last 2 weeks. There's no Danielle Hunter. Ngakwe's gone. Pierce is gone this year. So you have Afadia Denabo, Hercules Mataafa, Shamar Stephan, DJ Wanham, who's played well. Those front 4 are learning by fire as well. And they are getting pressure on the quarterback. They're starting to get that confidence. And that is one of the most important things that you can have. So if you think about what the Vikings are missing right now, Mike Hughes, who was supposed to be their number 1 cornerback, Anthony Barr, probably their second best linebacker because Eric Kendricks is playing out of his freaking mind at this point. Had an interception in the end zone today. Michael Pierce, who was supposed to take over for Linval Joseph, but opted out of this season because of COVID. Everson Griffin's gone, so you don't have him on the edge. Danielle Hunter, out for the year. That's 5 starters. Well, we're not even going to count Everson because he wasn't going to be there. But 4 out of 11 of your starters aren't there, and you're still holding up. Today, 5 of your opening day starters that should have been starters aren't there. Almost half of your team. Over half your team if you look at the whole thing. This year might be a bust. Who knows? We'll see what happens next week. Next week's going to be a huge game for the future of this season. If they can go on the road and beat the Bears on Monday night, something's going on. But we'll see. We'll see how well that offensive line that I've just built up so much can handle that defensive line for Chicago. We'll see if our cornerbacks can play well against Nick Foles, who's been a dumpster fire. But we'll see. So, very happy with the way the Vikings played today. And I still think Kirk Cousins is the king of the check down. There was plays today where I was like, Kirk, it's 3rd and 11. You got to throw the ball more than 5 yards down the damn field. I don't think Kirk Cousins is the long-term answer. I think he's a great game manager. Would be a great backup. Fantastic backup. But he's not going to be that. He wants to be a starter. I think after this year, maybe the next year, maybe 2 years, he's going to turn into that journeyman like Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's going to turn into that guy where somebody goes down, you sign him, he comes in and tosses the ball for you. But we shall see. Who knows? The Vikings could win the Super Bowl this year and make everybody look like fools. And I would gladly eat that crow and bask in the gloriousness of a Super Bowl, which isn't going to happen. They're not going to win the Super Bowl, folks. I'm saying it right here. It is November 7th or November 8th at 9:07 p.m. The Vikings are not winning the Super Bowl. The Vikings are probably not going to make the playoffs, but I think they can get to 8-8. I think they got a good enough squad for that. Moving on to the other team that we care about, the Green Bay Packers. They played on Thursday Night Football this past weekend, looking to get a bit of a revenge for that embarrassing loss in the NFC Championship game last year against the San Francisco 49ers. And the Packers put a Major League beatdown on the San Francisco, I'm going to call them the 48ers, because their entire team is injured. That was like watching a varsity team go against a JV team. Nick Mullins is out there. Jerick McKinnon was a focal point of the offense, which I think he should be. He's a solid running back. I like him. He used to play for the Vikings. There was no Jimmy G. There was no George Kittle. They had put a stat up that there was not one player for the 49ers that was playing on Thursday night. None of them even had a touch. None of them even touched the football in the NFC Championship game the year before. But the Packers took it out on them 34-17. Aaron Rodgers, another fantastic evening, 25 of 31 for 305 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. His interception to touchdown ratio or touchdown to interception ratio is off the charts. It's amazing. I still say that I can't really look at his touchdown interception ratio because he doesn't try to force the ball in. I think that's one of his weaknesses. It's good that he's not throwing interceptions, but he's not taking enough risks, if you ask me. But there's no doubt about it. He's probably the best quarterback in the NFC this year. Russell Wilson's up there, but until he unseats A-Raj, I just can't give that title to him. I don't think he's above Patrick Mahomes or even Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen at this point. Holy hell! But no, Rodgers is better than Josh Allen. Josh Allen's too young. Can't quite put him above Rodgers. I'd say Rodgers is the 3rd best quarterback in the game today, behind Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. But 25 of 31 for 305 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I'd take that every day and twice on Sunday as well. Aaron Jones returned after a 2-game hiatus, 15 carries for 58 yards. And Devontae Adams continues to show why he is one of the best receivers in the league, almost by necessity because the Packers don't have anybody else except for MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who was sitting on my bench in my fantasy league only to catch 2 touchdowns, 2 long touchdowns, and give 20 points when I had other receivers that gave me nothing. So thank you for that, MVS. I didn't believe in you this week, and you laid a one hundo out there, 20 points. But Devontae Adams, 10 receptions, 173 yards, and 1 touchdown. So I've said it before, the Packers are the team to beat in the NFC, I believe. They have their weaknesses, but and most of those weaknesses are on defense. Their defense is suspect at best. They still gave up 17 points and nearly 300 yards to Nick Mullins and a cast of nobodies. Their defense is sketchy. Their offense is solid, but other than Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, and Robert Tonyan apparently this year, they don't really have any other weapons. I mean, Jamal Williams, he's a nice compliment. Tyler Urban can do some flashy things, but when you get down to it, you get just like last year. They didn't have enough weapons to beat that great defense in San Francisco. I just don't think they have the weapons to be able to go to the Super Bowl and win it. I think they are the team to beat in the NFC. I think it's close between them. I thought it was close between them and Seattle, but Seattle had a rough time with the Vikings. Seattle got their asses handed to them today by the Buffalo Bills. They've had some other problems. Tampa Bay has their things. The last time I checked, they were down 14-0 to New Orleans. I'm not worried about New Orleans because Drew Brees is too old and he can't throw the ball down the field anymore. So who you got to go with? You're going to go with who's putting up the best numbers, and that's Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. As much as it pains me to say it, they're the best team in the league right now. The NFC as a whole is just, there's your top level teams where you have, I'll put Packers, Seattle, maybe Tampa Bay up there, New Orleans. But then where do the rest of it shake out? The NFC East is a complete and absolute disaster. The winner of that division may very well go 6-10. The Giants are awful. Daniel Jones is a bust. The Dallas Cowboys blew I think it was a 10-point lead to Pittsburgh today and lost. The football team, the Washington football team, it's just annoying. They put up a fight today, but they lost to the Giants. So somebody in that division had to win a game today. Could have ended in a tie, but that was 23-20. But, you're going to get one team out of the NFC East. The NFC North, the Packers, they're going to win the division. And the NFC West, Seattle's doing well. Los Angeles, the Rams, they got a decent team, but I don't think Jared Goff is that good. And then you got San Francisco with all their injuries. Who knows when they're coming back? They could very well go 6-10. And then you got Arizona that lost a barn burner to Miami. So if you look at it from a Vikings fan perspective, yeah, they started off 1-5. They're 3-5 now. But aside from the Packers, because you got eight teams that are going to get into this playoff, right? Let's notch in the Packers. Let's notch in, I'm going to go Tampa Bay out of the South to win that division. And I'm going to notch in Seattle to win out West. Then there's 5 other spots open for grabs. Let's notch in New Orleans. That leaves 4. Who else? What other teams are out there that are capable of going 8-8? I think who knows who wins? Philly and Carson Wentz, are they going to win the East? Maybe. So let's say the Packers win the North. New Orleans wins the South. The West goes to Seattle. who they could lose that too. And let's say Philly wins the East. Got 4 spots remaining. Let's put in New Orleans there. That leaves 3. The rest of the NFC East, dumpster fires. They're not gonna make any noise. Could Arizona get in there? They got enough talent, but does Kyler Murray have enough in him to get him over the hump? Does Los Angeles have enough with Jared Goff? I'm just saying the Vikings could squeak in, and if they can squeak in the way that they run the ball, or the way they've been running the ball, who knows what could happen. But we will, next week will be a very big tell. So our Monday morning recap will be a Tuesday morning recap next week. As the Vikings are on the road at the Chicago Bears at that windy-ass, terrible stadium on Monday Night Football. As of right now, the Bears are favored by 2.5 points. That one could be it could be a low-scoring game, like 10-7. I'm going to go out on a limb, though. I'm going to say the Vikings win that game. I think Kirk Cousins has a little bit to prove. I think Dalvin Cook can run through that defense. And I think our defense is just good enough to be able to stop Nick Foles. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the Vikings will beat the Bears 31-17. Another 14-point victory. And Dalvin Cook goes for another 200 and 3 touchdowns. And that's my prediction for next week. The Jaguars will be going in to Lambeau Field to play the Packers next Sunday. Oh, before I go too much further, the Bears got beat by the Tennessee Titans today by 7 points. So that drops them to 5-4. But next week, the Jaguars go to the Packers. Packers, as of this moment, are plus 14 in that one. They're favored by 14. I'm going to go out on a big limb here and say the Packers beat the Jaguars by 24 points. And then the Lions are at home against the Washington football team and Alex Smith. I think Washington will go into the Lions and beat them, actually. Because the Lions, if today's any indication, they're not a good team. And Matt Patricia's going to get fired this year, which I wish he wouldn't, because the Lions will be terrible as long as Matt Patricia's there. Matt Patricia has this face that I want to punch him, because he just looks like a douche. But as of right now, the NFC North standings are Packers at 6-2 are in the top spot, followed by the Bears at 5-4, Vikings at 3-5, and the Lions at 3-5. The Vikings are out of the cellar. They're above the Lions because they got that head-to-head. And next up is the Bears. If we can beat the Bears, I'm going to jump on that bandwagon. I'm going to make some big predictions. So until next week, I wish you good night. I wish you good luck. Skol Vikings! We'll see you next week, folks. Play the damn music!